major differences and really built a scenario analysis using some of the numbers from Electronic Arts. So initially, if you look at the sales figures that are predicted for the offsides release, if we do not release the game at all, there's an immediate loss of about $295 million of sales that were projected if this game were released. Now, if we take the Tiger Woods number that MPD came up with, where Tiger Woods, once the scandal came out, year-over-year sales for the game declined by 68%, it's a loss of $232 million, leaving us with a base case worst scenario of $63 million.
So following from the worst case scenario, we asked ourselves if there are any mitigating factors that we don't expect to be the case with Offsides 4. And the first that we came to is the product quality. If we think about the purchase decision, which is shown here on the left side of the page, why one may buy a video game, it comes down to a couple main factors, the critical ones being brand and the gaming experience and the product quality. And they're listed here in order from most outside of our control to most in our control. And you can see the majority of the gaming experience is within our control. One additional point to note is that one may argue that the importance of the branding and decision-making could increase over time after the announcement that Wayne Reynolds is gay. We've observed in our analysis that the role of branding in the consumer decision-making process is actually quite stable, and we don't expect this to change much over time. So taking that together, we quantified what would the impact be to the worst case scenario, i.e. what would we expect for Domestic Arcade to make in the event that the game is released as is. And we've quantified that impact to be $139 million, incremental to the 63 ZMR I just went through. And we believe that this is a reasonable assumption because we know that Domestic Arcade's Offsides 4 is a very strong brand, it's a strong product, and Tiger Woods' PGA Tour, which is our baseline case, did not have that. You can see here from professional reviewers and from the blogging community, examples where the game did not have the gaming experience, the graphics, or the visual representation that it was traditionally known for.
Second to the quality of the game, at the forefront of all of our minds, I'm sure, is the issue of homosexuality and a male football player in America today. The reality of Offsides 4 is that the vast majority of our consumers are young men. Despite what our perceptions might be, Gallup polling released earlier this year some surprising data that conflicts what that initial impression of inhospitability to, if I could have the previous slide, to this concept of homosexuality. Men of that age are approximately on par with women and in fact exceed them by some statistical margin. So that's a positive sort of bent on opinionated data today. I'm sure we all are also inclined to think that football and other sort of masculine team sports are the most inhospitable of environments, and indeed that opinion is borne out in some polling data about popular perceptions of sports at large. However, we thought about the purchase decision with respect to video games, which is fundamentally a personal one, and tried to look at data in terms of what opinion polling about gay individuals in athletics today are seen as, by the consumers of those sports. And the reality is that polling data, when broken down into decisions about one's personal opinions versus the way the opinions of others are perceived, is that supportiveness exhibits itself overwhelmingly when people express their own personal opinions about gays in sports, whereas when they give their opinion about how they think others perceive gay individuals in sports, that's where you see the negativity. So what does this mean? Well, you can see it in society today. It means that there are, and it may in fact be a product of the fact that there are more out gay athletes. They've continued to have success, such as the prominent Welsh professional football player, Gareth Thomas, and they have continued and been able to win endorsements in consumer products, such as John Amici's work with a men's grooming product. What we estimated this positive impact vis-a-vis our worst case scenario to be is about a 20% difference from the extremely negative perception of adultery that sort of tainted the impact on the PGA National game at about 20%. That equates to a $46 million bump up from that base case.
So the next thing we need to consider is how will Reynolds' team handle the announcement? As we saw for both Tiger Woods and Michael Phelps also recently, there is going to be a surge in web traffic. On average, one can expect traffic to increase about 20 times the previous day where there was no mention of the athlete in that context of the issue. So we know that if the story ends up trailing for a while, whereas it was in the Tiger Woods case, there'll be a significant spike in traffic that's maintained over a certain period of time. If the Reynolds team is able to get the story, get it out, and cap it, we'll still see that spike. It just may not last as long. But the main point here is there will be a spike, and we can capitalize on it, primarily using Google AdWords, for example, to bring traffic, to contain all that traffic that we're going to see, and actually lead it to the areas, or funnel into the areas where we want it to have greatest impact for our product. So as you can see here's who's connected to Wayne Reynolds in terms of how the story will be controlled. For us, on our end, our focus is on the game. So the way this plays out is we come out with the message of we're focused on the game, we don't comment on his personal life. And the other part of it is we capitalize, as I mentioned before on the previous slide, this increase of attention in web traffic. So in terms of focusing on the product, we really focus on our marketing plan. We get out through social networks, we invest in traditional media, we have events where we get a lot of reviewers and bloggers to comment and to really push the game. And then we also capitalize on the attention through Google AdWords, and also re-releasing, doing the pre-order during that spike in traffic, so everybody is now looking at when can I get this game. And it really hits home our marketing concept of this game kicks ass. So the main focus here is if we can really harness this marketing buzz, we can add another $23 to $59 million in additional revenue that we would not have had before launching in this direction, really bringing us to total expected revenue of about $272, which is roughly in line with the $295 that we were expecting, to perhaps $307 million all in.
So then, taking a step back and referring to the framework that Rob started us off with today, we wanted to come back and evaluate the three options that we had on the view of financials, brand and reputation, and competitors. So starting with the first option, which is pulling the franchise entirely, we would, from a financial side, we would effectively lose all $295 million that we were expecting from the release of Offsides 4. This would result in a significant earnings miss in 2011 and would be really the concern that we have for our stock price. On the reputational side, we run the risk of Domestic Arcade being viewed as homophobic, i.e. responding to what's going on in the media. And then lastly, as regards our competitors, by pulling the game, we would create some white space for our competitors to come in and take the sports market in NFL gaming. So that would be our option one, losing this bar. Option two, debranding, branding just as Offsides 4 without Wayne Reynolds, we would lose some revenue that we would have expected to maintain. Specifically, we quantified that as a loss of $93 million, which equates to what our worst case was, plus the quality of the game, which would be a positive impact to us. On the brand side, there is a risk that one, we lose the halo effect of Wayne Reynolds, and two, there is, albeit slightly less than option one, a view that we may be viewed as homophobic for responding to the media. And then lastly, promoting the game with Wayne Reynolds, which is our recommendation, we are likely to meet our 295 approximate revenue target. There is some potential downside risk, especially to the domestic family brand, but we believe that we can mitigate that through the marketing campaign. And then what that also does is help us maintain our cutting edge brand promise and really be the strong promoter of the Wayne Reynolds brand.
Thanks very much.
Take questions.